Welcome to Coaching Youth Hoops. The song Coach
Coach.
needed intro music that we could dance into.
Yeah, we should have. Yeah. Well, I like our intro.
I do like our intro. I
Yeah.
do like our intro a lot,
Your
actually.
attention.
Have the
Yeah.
buzzer horn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I,
Uh,
I'm I'm excited about this topic, Coach.
yeah, this is a hot topic. We asked our coaches what their number one challenge was, and this was youth coaches and high school coaches, and the number one challenge was parents. Dealing with parents, working with parents. How do you get parents on your side? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a three-part series on this. So this week we're going to talk about how to create partnerships with your parents, kind of turning some of these challenges into being more collaborative. Next week we're going to come back and talk about how do you deal with parents who are coaching from the stands, and then round it out at the end with how to work with parents and the expectations they have for their children. And as
The
a coach, how
three-part
do you,
series. It's like a mini series,
it's like
people.
a mini series. Yeah,
How,
we
how
haven't done one in a
excited can
while, so
you gotta wait a couple days to hear it, but it'll be really good, I think.
it'll be worth it. Just because, again, this is a hot topic that came up in our Facebook group. And if you're not there, go to Facebook and check it out, Coaching Youth Hoops.
I think it's probably the one of the biggest issues that we see on our Facebook group is parenting.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Or,
you
or,
asked
or
it
for
several
or
different good questions.
difficulties or not. I don't like
Yeah,
the word difficulties. I like the word, I don't know. I don't know what word I like for it, but it's definitely, I think that it's definitely the biggest discussion point probably that we have
correct.
seen in the last couple of years as far as, you know, unless you're coaching in an orphanage, you know.
Exactly. Well, before we
Those.
dig into the first one, let's give a big shout out to our sponsor, Game Changer. Uh, Game Changer. If you haven't checked it out, go to gc.com/coaching youth hoops. It is a amazing tool if you're a youth coach. Gives you the ability to record your games, show stats. It's free. Go download it at gc.com/coaching youth hoops. Check it out.
Free. Let's say that again. Free. It's
Sure.
free. Yes. All right, so let's talk about this, Coach. What's your thoughts on, the parents and the
Well, it's kind of
challenge?
like this dream I think coaches have, right? Which is, parents are actively supporting them. You have this team environment where parents feel like they're kind of co-investors in the team, right? That your coach and parent are collaborating. They have this the amazing experience, right? That's kind of the vision we always have in our head, of how we want to work with parents, but as we know, that's not always the case. And as we said, it can be a point of contention, and it can derail you, and can, as a coach, and can also just like, we're there to help the kids. And a lot of times parents uh, they don't see it from our perspective, and maybe we don't see it from their perspective. And that's what we want to talk about is how do we work better with parents when these tensions arise and come up.
Right,
A perfect example, we one of our rec league here, we did an experiment doing 3-on-3 games. And as we talked about on the show before, 3-on-3 is a great way for young people to learn the game of basketball.
right,
And more touches, right? There's more time on the court for them. It's easier from a coaching perspective, right? And the X's and O's type of thing. And we get so much pushback from parents that it a wasn't real basketball.
real. Yes,
Yeah, real basketball. Although as coaches, we all knew that that was the best for the child's development,
right.
right?
What, so when we talk about challenges, what do you mean by challenges? Do you mean getting yelled at? Do you mean what are the challenges that we're kind of diving into here?
Yeah, so imagine they're disagreeing with your coaching philosophy,
Right.
right? Or the they're challenging the way you manage the game, right? So that's kind of this. and we're going to talk about other things in the next two episodes, but that's really more. But think about it like from the uh, X's and O's perspective, right? There's a lot of challenges, and that's why we did it into a three-part series. We could probably, we will, right? Eventually talk about this subject for 90 minutes, right? Possibly. So, but we wanted to break it up into three. Um, but yeah, so I don't know the idea or this concept of just like parents sitting in the stands and the whispers going on, or they come up to you and ask you, well, why didn't you use all your timeouts in a
Right.
game? Why didn't you, right? And this happens at every level of the game. And I don't, no
Yeah.
matter if you're just
Ask Steve
starting out.
Kerr. Steve Kerr
Yeah,
had that
yeah,
happen. Win the US gold and you still have it happen. Yes, it happens at every
yes,
level.
right. I mean, it doesn't matter that you won three state championships. People are still going to question
Yep.
do
Yep.
things do. And again, we have to think about it though from their perspective. It's their child, it's their baby, right? They want the best for that individual.
Right. No, it's a protective. It's almost like an instinctual. Yeah. It's, and then so I think everyone would agree that these challenges exist, right?
Correct. Yeah.
That these playing times or philosophy or even how you communicate with them. But then how do we, so this is my question is how do you or how do we collaborate? How do we become a group, together? How do we collaborate better? I think
Yeah.
that's the hard part. I think that's where people struggle. I don't think anyone disagrees that there's an issue.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
No.
everyone just, I mean, I think the problem is some coaches get defensive, some coaches just ignore, some coaches, I think there's a wide range of reactions to the challenges, which
Yeah.
is what causes the problem.
Well, I think it's, and again, I think you'll see there's a common theme over the next three podcasts, and that will carry over. But I think the number one thing you can do is is be clear in your communication.
Yeah, I
And,
agree.
and and there's several ways to do that as a youth coach. And in this, you also have to imagine, like, it doesn't matter if you're in a regularly CYO, YMCA, AAU team, you practice a couple of days a week, let's separate this from what you do at the high school level, you're meeting every day. Not that it changes and not that the direction changes too much, but I hear, because sometimes I get a little feedback, well, coach, I only see them twice a week, do I need to worry about this? And yeah, absolutely, right? You do, because they're going to cause problems in the stands with other parents, and then and it's a viral situation. So what I did, and I always get great feedback on this, and I use communication as my differentiator. I think as coaches in general, we have a problem with communication, and with parents especially, and the idea of sending a regular updates, and I'm using this as a blanket statement, of course, but we're sending regular updates, following up, letting parents know the nitty gritty. Like, I just, before this podcast, I just sent our weekly newsletter out for my group, right? And I talked about three things. One was we had a gym change of where we're going to be this week. Just wanted everybody to know that. I talked about our theme for the season and explained our theme for the season. And I talked about something fun, which was the Steph Curry's new television show. And just say, hey, if you want,
Actually
it's a
pretty
good
good.
sitcom, right? Yeah, it's
It's
pretty
on
good.
Peacock, I think.
Peacock. Yeah.
Before we get any farther, let's give a big shout out to our sponsor and Game
Yeah.
Changer Coach.
Yeah. Game changer. Coaches, go check out gc.com/coaching youth
Youth
hoops.
hoops.
Great way
And
to,
in our clinic, we got to talk about our clinic a little bit, our online clinic.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty super excited about it. This is where coaches can just have that sense of relief that, hey, there's great information out there. Everything in that weekly coaches clinic, and it's coachingyouthhoops.com/weekly dash clinic. Everything in there, Steve or I've tested. We've tried. So we've
Right.
boiled it all down into this series. The beautiful thing about what I do is they always talk about this. My team is a lab. It's a lab for all of you coaches that are listening right now. I try things, throw things out, add new things. My players give me feedback, and it's kind of funny. I love it because they know what I'm up to too. I mean, I'm full disclosure. I just tell them, hey, let's try this. Want to see if it works. What do you guys think? Do you like it?
Right.
Do you not?
Right.
And I have third through eighth, so it's a nice spectrum of players and their perspective and
Yeah.
just the feedback. Anyway, yeah. So coaches, check it out. Every week you're going to get at least 5 pieces of amazing information to help you lead your team, guide your team, X's and O's, leadership. Um,
And
uh,
they're not little things, trust me. And then some of the bonuses alone are like, anyway, it's not, a third of a PDF kind of thing. It's
right.
the quality stuff, video and PDFs, and yeah.
Yeah, and like we said when we created it, it's not we don't lack information, right? What we
Right.
lack is organization. How do we know what works?
Right.
Here you can
So
trust it
give them the
works.
URL one more time,
Yeah,
coach.
so coachingyouthoops.com/weekly-clinic for more
Okay.
information.
All right. So let's get back. So we talked about communication. So what else do we have for communication
Yeah,
as far as
so
collaboration here?
I think one of the things that I do is I don't necessarily, again, you got 2 days a week, unless it's necessary, but I have a lot of water cooler conversations, I call it, right? With parents. They're flashing into the gym. I'll spend an extra minute or so with a particular family, right? And I try to rotate that, or they're hanging around after practice. And I actually have buffer if I'm doing multiple teams. I have a buffer in between. Call the kids together. They go do their thing for 5, 10 minutes. That allows me just to kind of walk the gym and talk to the parents. Let them know what's up. I talk about their individual player. And those little tiny conversations add up over time.
I call them touch points.
Yeah,
I
touch
call them
point.
touch points. You should have
Yeah.
a touch point with every one of your players. You need to have the same exact touch point with parents. It's
Yeah.
just there's that, every day in my school, I try to have a touch point with all my players. It's harder with parents at the high school level because the high school kids don't really want the parents around.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
the touch point's harder, but I'd tell you a story. Like we had open gym the other day, and I'm walking out, and one of the parents of the twins, she rolled down her window. We had a touch point. We talked about a couple things. I was just checking on school and blah blah blah, and then to what their classes are taking, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's important. Yeah, very important actually. Um, so yeah, that individual touch
That
point that
individual
we,
one-on-one touch
yeah,
points. Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the next one would be just how can you involve your parents in what you do? Uh, Keeping score, filming games, parties, so they
right.
feel like they're a part of the whole big community.
Sometimes I'll give a bit of advice that I use when I was doing it is I always put the loud parent as the scorekeeper or the thing because they had to be quieter when they
Right.
yeah, because the officials would say something to them if they're screaming from the scores table. So I always put
Yeah.
one of the louder parents. Anyway, it worked. You should try it. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, remember what we're trying to do is we're trying to be partners with the parents. Right. And a lot of the breakdown is they don't know. They don't know what's in our head and what we're up to. What's the long-term plan here? What are you doing, coach? Why are you doing it this way? Right. And a lot of these little communication and touch points, as you said, can help with that. Getting them involved a little bit closer, right? And again, I know a lot of coaches don't have that luxury. They say, well, I have the opposite problem. I can't get anybody to be involved, and they just drop their kids off and go. But if you are having issues, think about how you can collaborate and be a partner. And I think the last point here too is positive reinforcement, that you appreciate the parents, you appreciate them bringing their player on time to practice, you appreciate them picking up on time, reinforce the behavior
That you
you
want. Yeah.
I think that's really key.
I'm gonna throw one out, and I had this one before. It's like,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure how to exactly word it, but I remember some of the times with my son, especially with some travel teams. It's like there have to be some boundaries. Like if you're all out at the bar. It's like there are just this is what's kind of expected. Maybe we're not going to do this. We're not going to yell from the stands, or we're not going to
Correct. Yeah.
be drinking in front of
Right.
the kids. Just and those are my kind of boundaries. Everyone would have different ones, but it's like we got to model a little bit here, people. So
Yeah.
anyway. just that's one I think that we could definitely throw out as far as a thought at least.
Well, and I think uh you touched on a really good point, which is you have to model the behavior you want. So if you're, for great example, I see this all the time. You're yelling and screaming at the refs. Well, what are the parents going to do in the stands? They think that's acceptable behavior, so they start barking at the refs, right? And they start, right? They get a little bit more vocal because you're more vocal.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
yeah. So
That's
just
I think
watch
that's
your behavior
yep.
as well and model what you want. And I think the biggest thing is just communication. Here's my philosophy. Here's what I believe in. Here's what I'm going to focus on. Also, we have 90 minutes to practice twice a week, right? I can't do everything.
Right.
So you have your children, right? 5 other days, and they could be practicing at home. So please help me out.
Right.
Encourage them to practice at home,
Yes.
right?
And
Get
here's
some
what you could
shots up.
do. Yes. I love
Yes.
that. All right, let's give a summary of this, coach, so people can kind of all the how we can collaborate between the parents and
And
us.
yeah, and I think the first thing to keep in mind is, remember, we're going from kind of challenges to collaboration. So if you change your mindset on the whole approach, yes, sometimes you just got to bite your lip and, be the better person in the situation. So change your mindset and your thinking. They're not adversaries, they're partners, okay? One is then, set clear communications, be just, your philosophies, your team goals, get that all out there. And again, that's going to be the common theme for the next couple of weeks. Communication will clear a lot of trouble. Next one is, hold these like the touch points, whatever you want to call them, 30-second touch conversations as parents are leaving, entering the gym. Talk about their child in particular, talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, something you noticed they did in practice that you really liked. Set boundaries, right? So, you know, this is what we do. This is, good communication. This is bad communication. This is good collaboration. This is bad collaboration, right? So they know when they step over the line. Involve parents though, make them feel like part of the team and in a partnership. A lot of parents do want to be involved, seek those people out. And then just positive reinforcement in your communications, in your newsletter. Again, model that behavior you want, but also recognize a parent who stepped up, who did something special, who, right, uh, just again, reinforce that behavior that you want. Does that make sense, Coach?
I love that. All right. Let's give one more shout out to Game Changer, coach.
Yeah, coaches, go check out gc.com/coaching youth hoops, and it's a perfect tool to help you communicate better and more clear with your parents.
Yeah, it's a perfect lead in.
gc.com/coaching youth hoops.
All right. Until next week, coach.
Till next week.